While I wouldn't describe myself exactly as an accidental tourist in the field of conflict resolution, or as I would prefer to put it, peace building, it was certainly not my original intention. I spent about 20 years working in academics and on public policy, looking at issues of forced migration, both within the context of Italy, i.e. how all the fiat workers who started in the South and came north to work in turn got incorporated both into the factories and into urban life, and then a project in the 1990s looking at the challenges of dealing with German refugee crises and Italian immigration crises, and spent several years in Berlin and in Rome. And in fact, it was only when I met Andrea Bartoli, who was the founder and director of the Center for International Conflict Resolution in the late 90s, that I got interested in conflict resolution when I started working for his center. I originally started working on more of the technology front, but then got involved with migration and internal displacement processes when the center increasingly got involved in working in Iraq. One of the projects that we did at the center was actually train state officials in how to deal with genocide prevention. And then subsequently I worked later on how you actually build networks, social networks, to maintain communities of folks interested in this, and then actually went to Kenya a couple of times to think about how you could use election violence monitoring as a way of doing early warning for genocide prevention. Since then, I've been focusing more on sort of teaching and sort of reflecting on what I learned, both teaching a course here and also a course on human rights and social media over in GSAS. One of the issues that I'm writing on right now is actually thinking about hate speech and harassment in online platforms. I'm also writing a policy paper related back to the work that I did on Kenya in election violence monitoring. And the third project that I have in mind is to do more on how refugees have been able to use cell phones for self-protection and to improve their sort of state in the world. My most interesting moment in Iraq, or in conflict resolution in general, when I was in an armed compound sitting in Kirkuk working on the training of local officials on how to get the Kurds back into Kirkuk. And we came back one night tired, ready to work on our last day's preparation, and the security guys asked us, "You guys know where the safe room is, don't you?" And we said, "No." And more to the point, "Why are you asking us now, after we've been here for a few days?" They said, "Well, we think we're going to come into attack tonight. But don't worry, because they're not going to try to overrun us, they're just going to try to scare us." And to which one of my wittier colleagues said, "Well, you can call them up and tell them we're already scared and they don't need to come." I knew the field was right for me once I sort of saw the nexus of connections and relations that sort of held the processes together. And basically the possibilities for forming meaningful connections between what was going on, sort of in New York and in Geneva, with places like Nairobi and Kirkuk, because the challenges are obviously great. The road, shall we say, is long, but it did sort of give me a much greater hope, as well as a much greater knowledge of how all this stuff should work, even if in most cases that's more aspirational than practice at the moment. So I do hope to continue sort of doing this. At this point, I'm spending more time reflecting on what I've learned in the past, but I would like to get back out in the field again at some point.